Good day, ma'am. This is Marlon Pico Jr., BS Criminology 3. What is crisis management? Crisis management is the application of the strategies designed to help an organization deal with a sudden and significant negative event. Crisis management helps the manager to devise strategies to come out of uncertain conditions and also decide on the future course of action. Crisis management helps the managers to feel the early signs of crisis, warn the employees against the aftermath, and take necessary precautions for the same. And number two, how will you define crisis? A crisis is any event or period that will lead or may lead to an unstable and dangerous situation affecting an individual, group, or all of the society. Crises are negative changes in the human or environmental affairs, especially when they occur abruptly, with little or no warning. More loosely, a crisis is a testing time for an emergency in a crisis affected people. Take in information process information and act on information differently than they would during non-crisis time. People or group may be exaggerated their communication on responses. They may revert to more basic or instinctive fight or flight reasoning. For example, the crisis caused by a natural disaster might inspire you and your friend to make a donation. The noun crisis comes from Latinized form of the Greek word crisis, meaning turning point in a disease. At such a moment, the person with the disease could get better or worse. It's a critical moment. Think of a celebrity whose recent antics generate headlines like "Rockstar in crisis." That person needs help that may or may not be sought. At the moment of crisis, things are unstable and maybe even dangerous. And number three, what is crisis intervention? Crisis intervention is the urgent and temporary care given to an individual in order to interrupt the downward spiral of maladaptive behavior and return the individual to their usual level of pre-crisis functioning. Some common examples of crisis intervention include suicide prevention, telephone hotlines, hospital-based crisis intervention, and community-based mental health services mobilized during a disaster. Underlying most models of crisis intervention is what has been termed the threefold model of crisis. The most basic goal of crisis intervention aims to reduce the intensity of an individual's emotional, mental, physical, and behavioral reactions to a crisis. Help individuals return to their level of functioning before the crisis. And number four, who will take charge when there is crisis? The following parties are responsible for dealing with a crisis or disaster: the mayor, the fire brigade, the medical and the municipal services, and the police. The army may also be deployed. The mayor is responsible at the administrative level for ensuring the response effort runs smoothly. He or she convinces the representatives of the various public services who make up the disaster management team. In view of the mayor's administrative responsibility, the municipal council may call him or her to account for the overall management of the response effort. Fire services. The fire service is the linchpin of the disaster response. The fire chief is charged with the operational management of the response effort. Everything that occurs in the disaster area falls under his or her authority. As a member of the disaster management team, the fire chief puts the team's decisions into practice. He or she also coordinates the work of the emergency services. In the disaster area, the fire service's first duty is to save people and animals. Firefighters also put out fires, of course, and conduct tests to find out whether any hazardous substances have been released. Regional accident and disaster medical teams, anyone injured in a disaster will require medical assistance as soon as possible. Ambulance paramedics will usually provide first aid and stabilize the injured so that they can be taken to hospital. Police services. The police will ensure that the fire and ambulance service can do their job. They will cordon off the disaster area, direct traffic, and sometimes set up a safety zone around the disaster area. If victims are difficult to identify, the police will deploy the disaster identification team consisting of experts convened on an ad hoc basis. This team of specialists perform their work in consultation with one another. And number 5, what is Terrorism Department of Defense? Dictionary of Military Terms defines terrorism as the calculated use of unlawful violence or threat of unlawful violence to inculcate fear intended to coerce or to intimidate government or societies in the pursuit of goals that are generally political, religious, or ideological. It is an act which aims to create fear among ordinary people by illegal means. It is a threat to humanity. It includes person or groups spreading violence, riots, burglaries, rapes, kidnappings, fighting, and bombings, and etc. Terrorism is an act of cowardice. Also, terrorism has nothing to do with religion. Terrorism does more than kill the innocent. It undermines democratic government, even in mature democracies like those in the United States and much of Europe. The fear terrorism generates can distort public debates, discredit, moderates, empower political extremes, and polarize societies. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.